So with this new act, there is a lot to talk about. Astra finally got nerfed, the Yoru rework is here, and it seems as though Brim and Omen might be making a return to the meta. Oh, and did I mention that Icebox basically got fully reworked? Well, let's get into the patch notes. Valorant patch 4.04 just dropped, and with it came some game-changing tweaks, but most importantly, Astra finally got nerfed. Players have been complaining about just how oppressive Astra has been basically since she came out. Sure, she was nerfed back in patch 3.0 with added cooldowns, but it wasn't enough to stop her from making our lives a living hell.
Dude, I just hate Astra.
That shit works.
You can just have global presence, or you can like solo hold. Imagine using 4 abilities all at the same time.
Yesterday's update addressed many of these issues, but let's start with some of the bigger changes. Astra's max amount of stars has been reduced to 4, and the cooldown on both her Gravity Well and her Nova Pulse has been increased from 25 seconds to a whopping 45. Now players will have to be much more critical when deciding when and where to use her utility. You can't just kit dump her abilities anymore. When recalling her stars, you will now have to wait a full 25 seconds before you can place them again. The size of her Gravity Well has also been changed from 525 to 475, but with her Nebula increasing from 410 to 475, all this means is that her utility is all now the exact same size. Personally, I think these are solid changes. Previously, Astra was just way too strong on certain maps, and now players will have to think a lot more before placing her stars. Next, Riot moved on to nerfing another top tier controller, Viper. Viper's fuel now drains 50% faster when both her wall and smoke are active, and her fuel bar will turn red when she doesn't have enough to activate her abilities. The cooldown after deactivating both abilities has also been increased by 2 seconds, and her snake bites now disappear 1 second sooner. Needless to say, Riot definitely wanted to make changes to the top tier smoke agents. Now, Astra and Viper weren't the only ones who received updates. Both Omen and Brim received some much needed buffs. The cooldown on Omen's smokes has gone down from 40 seconds to 30, so you'll have more opportunities to use them as the round goes on. But the biggest change to his kit has to be the travel time on his smokes. The speed has more than doubled from 2800 to 6400, and these things can now fly across the map almost instantly. Riot has also decreased the cost of his teleport from 150 to 100 and lowered the pre-teleport delay from 1 second to 0.7 seconds. Omen's Paranoia has also been altered slightly, so we shouldn't get team flashed as often. Now, his smokes did go up in price from 100 to 150, but given the fact that they're the most important part of his kit, I think it's a pretty fair trade-off. Next up, we have Brimstone, who I think received one of the most interesting buffs in this entire patch. The deploy time on Brim's smokes has gone down from 2 seconds to only 1, the range on his iPad has increased from 5,000 to 5,500, and his smokes now match the height of everyone else's. But the final change to Brimstone is where things get kinda weird. Not only does Brim's stim beacon apply a 15% increase to your rate of fire, but it now also applies a 15% speed boost. Previously, we saw this type of mechanic applied in game modes like Spike Rush, so it'll be interesting to see what it looks like in the real game. Until then, here's what the pros had to say.
I'm gonna be honest, I think Brimstone is better than Omen.
Is Brim really good now? I think it is. I think it really is sick. The fact that they nerfed Astra and they gave him movement speed to his teammate, like,
Smokes down.
it's pretty sick.
Brimstone Stimmy's
this guy
insane,
might,
dude. I'll shoot hella fast.
Liz and I tested out Brim's stim beacon with Neon, and no, the speed boost doesn't stack. Now, before we move on to Icebox, let's talk about Yoru. We've known for a while now that Riot has been wanting to rework the agent, but that day is finally here. His underwhelming footsteps have been replaced with a single Yoru decoy, which can be sent running in any direction. The decoy has 150 HP, and when shot it winds up, turns towards whoever shot it, and explodes in a cone area after a short delay. If you're caught within the cone, then you get flashed. If you ask me, this ability is still kind of meh. If you're playing against half-decent players, they probably won't even bother shooting it, but where his rework gets really interesting is his teleport. Yoru can purchase a second gate crash, which now resets every 2 kills rather than being on a timed cooldown like before, and he can now fake his teleport. The audible range of gate crash has been decreased from 22.5 meters to 12.5 meters. And the speed that it travels has also been increased from 675 to 800. Oh, and did I mention that his ult now lasts 2 seconds longer? He's no longer revealed to enemies while using it, like at all, and now he can cast all of his utility while it's active. So I'll be honest, Yoru sounds pretty f***ing strong now. It's tough to say if he's busted, but I'm sure we'll find out soon. And since I'm a plat scrub, I decided to ask my boy Ethos about the changes because, well, he's a Yoru main.
Now with the fake out and the TP fake, and also the speed of the TP and how it's quieter, and the ult, don't even get me started on the ult. The ult is the most broken thing in the world. He is now an incredibly versatile and flexible agent that can thrive in a lot more scenarios, situations, and environments that he would struggle in previously. So that was the biggest thing, right? Like, Yoru could be great, but only in 1% of scenarios. Now he can be great in most scenarios, and that's the biggest impact.
All right, so lastly, let's talk about the box, because the Icebox that we all know and love is basically gone. So Riot says that these changes to the corridor between Garage and Yellow are to help attackers while also making the space just a bit less claustrophobic. Yellow has also been rotated, so it's now parallel with the edge of the map, and Riot said that they just saw too many rounds playing out where people would be hiding behind Yellow. So now they shifted it to the side. They added a box here, which is similar to the box over here, and for those of you who don't know, it is wallbangable. You can wallbang these. I think this change to Yellow is honestly great. Like, retaking is going to be so much better now. And then we have the site itself. So on B site, you can no longer hide down here in this lower section. It's completely closed off. The box that was here has now been moved down there. So you can actually still plant here, but there's no box now to keep you covered. You can go up top. The rope is slightly moved over here. And you can also plant on the bridge now, which is kind of cool. And then there's this little spot here. So overall, I think these changes are going to be really good for attackers. You can get onto the site easier, and there's different options to actually plant now. But what Riot's done is actually solid for defenders too. Like, you'll actually be able to retake now. Other than that, they made some minor changes when you're entering kitchen here. This angle's a bit different. And then boiler, they shifted the ramp over a little, but other than that, nothing major. And then on A site, they replaced the little box that was here before with a full Radiant box, which again, these are wallbangable. Overall, I think these Icebox changes are pretty dope. They give attackers more options while still making things easier for defenders on the retake, so good job, Riot. So aside from everything we've already talked about, Riot also fixed the way that certain abilities are placed on the ground. So now I don't have to mold because my chamber utility didn't go where I wanted it to. All right, so it's safe to say that Riot has really shaken up the meta with this update. Like, really shaking it up. With Astra being nerfed, who knows, now we might actually see some variety in pro team comps. I for one am happy. Seeing players melt in Astra nade combos or watching post plants get stalled out because someone is sitting off site and pulling people off the defuse is just boring. We likely won't be seeing this update in pro play for a couple weeks now, but with the first Masters event of the year coming up in just a month and a half, this could change everything. So now I don't have to f***ing mold because my chamber utility didn't go where I wanted it to. I didn't have to say f***ing, but I did it. I said a swear word. But with the first Masters event of the year coming up in just a month and a half, well, then what? Then what? This update can change everything. Yeah. Okay.